Welcome to Infinite Tales. Please subscribe to my channel. Your one click keeps this universe alive. Folded Hands. The twin sons of Kepler, 442b, hammered the cracked ground without mercy as Alexander dragged himself across the lifeless plain. Each step sent warning alarms, screaming through his environmental suit. The cooling system was failing. Slowly. Irreversibly. The crash had been 3 days ago. His survey vessel was nothing more than blackened wreckage now, scattered across the desert like bones picked clean. His water reserves had run dry that morning. By mid-day, even swallowing hurt. Through the shimmering heat haze, movement flickered. Alexander forced his burning eyes to focus. Figures rose from the ground itself. Tall, reptilian silhouettes emerging from tunnel entrances, carved into the rock. They moved with a fluid grace that contrasted sharply with the brutality of their world. Zephyrians. He recognized them from mission briefings. Native to Kepler, 442b. Endemic species. Critically endangered. One of them stepped forward. She was smaller than the others. Her scaled arms marked with delicate blue patterns that caught the sunlight. Her posture was cautious but steady. Curious, not hostile. Alexander raised his hands, slowly in the universal sign of peace. His throat was too dry to form words. The Zephyrian, Nora, he would later learn, studied him closely. His pale skin was flushed crimson. His breathing came in shallow, desperate gasps. She had never seen a human before, but dehydration looked the same across all living things. Without hesitation, she reached for the water container at her side. Alexander's heart stuttered. That container held barely enough for a single day. On Kepler, 442b, water was not a resource. It was survival itself. The Great Drought had lasted 7 cycles. Oceans had vanished. Forests had died. The Zephyrians had retreated underground, watching their world turn to dust. Nora whispered a single word in her native tongue and extended the container toward him. Kethna. Even through his delirium, Alexander understood the magnitude of what she was offering. With trembling hands, he accepted it. The water was warm, heavy with minerals, but it was life. Strength surged back into his limbs with every swallow. After a few precious sips, he forced himself to stop and tried to return the container. Nora shook her head firmly and pressed it back into his hands. Kethnel, she insisted. Drink it all. The other Zephyrians gathered around them. Their golden eyes filled with concern and resignation. They had given away their emergency reserves for a stranger, a member of a species known only from distant transmissions. Alexander managed to force out one hoarse word. Thank you. 6 months later, the sky above Kepler, 442b, thundered with engines. Massive human terraforming vessels moved in controlled formation, their hulls glinting as they deployed atmospheric processors across the planet's upper layers. Alexander stood beside Nora on the same barren hillside where they had first met. Green pushed through the soil, real green. "Your people came?" Nora said, her translator rendering her words in soft, accented English. "They came because of you," Alexander replied, watching clouds begin to form where none had existed for years. "Because I gave you water." Rescue teams had reached Alexander within days, but instead of a simple extraction, humanity had listened to his report and gone very quiet. An entire species had shared its last water with a dying stranger. 17 times, the Galactic Council had denied Zephyrian aid requests. Insufficient strategic value. Limited resources. Humanity saw something else. Admiral Sarah Chen had stood before the relief fleet and spoken words that would echo through history. Any species willing to give water to a stranger in a desert deserves everything we can give in return. The response had been overwhelming. Atmospheric processors seeded clouds. Weather satellites reshaped wind currents. Drilling rigs tapped ancient aquifers, buried beneath the planet's crust. Human agronomists engineered crops designed specifically for Zephyrian biology and soil. Water reclamation systems pulled moisture from air too thin to sustain life. And in orbit, vast harvesting stations redirected ice from the asteroid belt, breaking it down into gentle planet, saving rain. "The debt was mine," Alexander said quietly, as the first heavy drops began to fall, but humanity made it ours. Nora lifted her hand, palm up, catching the rain. For the first time in 7 years, water fell freely from the sky. Zephyrians emerged from their underground shelters, faces turned upward in disbelief. Some wept. Others simply stood, letting the rain wash dust and despair from their scales. "Why?" Nora asked softly. "Your species could have taken what it needed and left us to fade. The galaxy would have understood." Alexander smiled, remembering the fierce debates on Earth, arguments for limits, conditions. Strategic leverage, all silenced by one image: a dying man in a desert, and a stranger offering her last water. "Because we recognize kindness when we see it," he said. "And kindness deserves kindness in return, multiplied by every human who ever will be." As the rain intensified, Nora understood. She had not just saved a single human life that day. She had revealed something essential about her people. The drought ended, but more than that, an alliance was born. Not from power or advantage, but from compassion freely given. Alexander watched Zephyrian children laugh as they splashed through growing puddles, their joy echoing beneath the falling rain. Humanity had found something rare among the stars. A people whose first instinct was to give. And humanity had answered, turning one cup of water into rivers that would flow forever.